Hey, it's National College Football writer Anthony Gimino and from Pac12 Hotline, John Wilner. This is 1030, The Voice.
The following is a paid program, and the host is solely responsible for its content. Opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of KVOI or its sponsors.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Eye on the Ball. I'm Steve Rivera, alongside co-host Jay Gonzales, and you're listening to 1030 The Voice. Welcome to Monday, Jay, for what should be a very fun show.
It ought to be. Anthony Gimino and John Wilner are going to join us today for what we're calling a reporters roundtable, which just means a bunch of old guys talking, sitting around here talking football and all the stuff that's going on. But there's been a lot of stuff going on since last week, so we wanted to get some other viewpoints in here, so we'll talk about it. They're going to join us shortly.
We could have a few stories about each other because we are all competing against each other, or on the same staff together, or traveling together, or getting having a drink or two together on the road, maybe in Oregon at the steak place with the electric station.
The electric station in Oregon, Eugene. Oh my God!
Yes, and a few other. Eugene, probably the best college town that
yeah.
In my time?
Yeah,
your time?
I loved that. As college towns go outside of Tucson, on the Pac-12 road, Pac-10 road at the time, Eugene was my favorite.
Right. San Francisco was fun, but it's San Francisco, big city. L.A. is L.A., but Eugene is a college town you really want to
Landing?
Yes.
I don't even know if that place is still there, but
a lot of fun.
A lot of fun there. A lot of fun in that town.
So we'll look back at some big stories that we did. We'll go talk about today, obviously, and what's going on in the future.
Well, a lot of stuff going on, and Anthony Gimino is about to join us here, but one of the things was what's happening in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And, they've a week into classes, they've kicked everybody off campus except the student athletes, which, wasn't that long ago that they were saying if we can't have students on campus, we can't have sports.
Right.
And that's going on at
eventually guess what's going to happen. We'll talk about that. Anthony Gimino on the line. How are you, Anthony?
What's going on, fellas?
How's the day job?
Busy today, man. I just got home. That's not supposed to happen, right?
That's right.
9 to 5.
And
9 to 5.
John, I think John is doing some dad stuff, so he's going to join us after the break. So we'll get with him. So we were just talking, Anthony. Have you been paying attention to today and some of the stuff going on today?
Well, I saw a little bit of the North Carolina stuff, especially that headline from the student newspaper. That kind of got plastered all over.
Yeah, everywhere.
Social media. What do you?
Just the whole idea.
Out of all that?
Well, just the whole idea that when all this was going on, they were saying if we can't have students on campus, we can't have sports. Well, here's North Carolina a week into their school year, and boom, they're gone. And what are you going to do?
That's because all this, everything that some of the conferences are trying to do is aspirational. They're the Big Ten and the Pac-12 said, you know what, we just don't see a way forward. While these other conferences, Big 12, ACC, SEC, we're just going to keep banging their head against the wall. And maybe it'll work out. I think as we see camps have reopened while campuses are closing. Oklahoma over the weekend, they had started practice, took a week off, and they came back, and they had 9 new positive tests among their players. You can try this. You can try to do a camp. You can try to get through a camp. You can try to get to your first game and play your first game, but then all bets are off. And I think those. Yeah, I don't know if it's to their credit or not. These other conferences trying to do it. I guess everybody can make their own determination on that. But it's going to be. If you really think the season's going to go off, you're just crazy.
Well, that was where I was going to go. We can make our own determination. I will. There's a 20% chance that's going to happen. It's funny. I was with somebody over the weekend, and you've met him before, Mike. He's talking about the Army, Navy, Air Force. Mm-hmm. Plugging along, and that they're going to be playing too. I saw there was something on the coach from Army talking about them playing as well.
Yeah, the coach from Army, they're going to. They've scheduled a game the first weekend of September.
Yeah, the academies are raring to go, and
it might be just a round robin with the academies.
Well, Air Force is looking, because they're in the Mountain West, which is canceled football.
Right.
So maybe they think they can just go and set their own schedule. Navy's in the American Athletic Conference, which is still playing as of now. But certainly they have to fill some non-conference slots, even if they have a conference schedule. And then you got Army. They need, they have to replace pretty much everything because they're an independent.
Well,
but they want to play.
Well, one of the issues has been all along is that let's wait and see what happens when the students get on campus. And we're already seeing that. I mean, I don't know if you saw the tweet by Greg Byrne yesterday, at Alabama. And that picture with all the, this massive line of people, not a single one of them wearing a mask. And he's like, can we please just wear a mask? They're begging people. And somebody made the comment, that picture got posted a million times, but somebody made the comment, those are the same people that are going to be the most upset if there's no football.
Exactly.
And it's Alabama, it's football. So, there's nothing more important than that. And your athletic director is making a plea to say, hey, people, why don't you just try to be responsible so we can get a handle on the spread of the virus, which will increase our chances of playing football. And if you looked at some of the responses he got on Twitter, he was getting killed.
Yeah. He got crushed.
He was just getting killed. The anti-maskers were out in force. And but as you guys know, I work for the county, and with our health messaging, we see that all the time. You can't, even if something on social media gets posted that's not related to COVID-19 or anything like that, somehow it gets turned around where it is. And it's like these, it's just kind of relentless at times. Okay. There's certain people, even Alabama football fans. When you can't reach an Alabama football fan with a message of, hey, try to be responsible.
So we can play football? Yeah.
Yeah. That's the kind of uphill climb we face with some of that kind of thing.
Well, even Nick Saban responded just about an hour ago, and there's a response out on Twitter from him basically saying, look, guys, if you think this is a thing about democracy,
it's not.
It's not.
It's not. No,
wear a dang mask.
In fact, I posted something.
In the Pac12, in their documents they released last week when they canceled the fall season, they put out 13, 14 pages of documents and reasoning and medical stuff. And their number one criteria for getting back to play after December 31st was community spread needed to be slowed.
Right.
This isn't very hard. And the number one way you, me, and everybody else can slow the spread and get a handle on it are the same things people have been talking about for months.
Right.
Wear a mask, socially distance, and wash your hands.
In fact, this week I posted something. We live in a town or a community and or states that say you can't tell me what to do, so I'm not going to do it.
As a culture, that's kind of who we are.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't tell me. That's kind of the whole story here. We're a country of extroverts.
Yeah.
You can't tell me what to do, but that makes it difficult in a situation like this.
Let's take a quick break.
Yep, we'll take a quick break, and then hopefully John Wilner is going to be with us about 20 after, but we'll get back to the conversation after the break.
Local and national politics, the issues that matter to you. 1030 The Voice, Tucson's trusted local news and talk.
Camille Rivas Rutherford with Coldwell Banker Realty has been one of the top producing real estate agents in Tucson, Oro Valley, Marana, and Vail for more than 20 years. Let her help you find your dream home in southern Arizona. Her passion and enthusiasm for real estate has helped her become one of the most respected and trusted realtors in the area. And she was recently named a recipient of Coldwell Banker's 2019 International President's Circle Award. Camille's approach to sales and marketing and selling or buying a home is second to none. Give her a call at 520-250-5192.
There's a place in our house For 70 years, Benjamin Supply has been keeping Tucson flowing. Hygiene is our business. We help you achieve extreme clean. Minimize germ spreading with a hands-free sensor faucet. Forget the paper panic with a washlet seat. And speaking of waterworks, a big thanks to plumbers for their essential efforts during this health crisis. Shop our downtown showroom by appointment. Call us at 777-7000 or see all the products online at benjaminsupply.com.
Thanks to Benjamin Plumbing Supply.
These days, most families are concerned with having the right insurance coverage. Protecting your family, home, auto, and other valuable possessions can be challenging and sometimes expensive. Crest Insurance gives you flexible options and solutions while saving you money. Insurance is not one size fits all, and at Crest, we find the coverage that's best for you and your family. Visit us online at www.crestins.com or call us toll free at 888-881-5765.
1030 The Voice is committed to supporting our local businesses. Many are struggling. We want to help them get the word out that they're still open and ready to serve you. Go to kvoi.com, click on the Stay Tucson Strong page, where you can find a link to support our business partners. You can make your dollar count by buying from local businesses and in return, help them keep their workers employed. Find out more at kvoi.com. Together, we can stay Tucson Strong with 1030 The Voice.
Trusted local news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside Jay Gonzales. And on the phone we have Anthony Gimino. Shortly we'll have John Wilner, kind of the good old gang getting together talking about football.
So, Anthony.
Did you say old?
Yes.
Old?
You know, I was thinking together we have about 120 years of this stuff that we do. I want to say another word.
Anthony, that's a lot.
I'm out.
So that's old.
That's like a mic drop there.
But again, we were all like
close it up
12
right
when
now.
we started doing this, right?
That's true.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, I will say this before he gets on. Wilner looked like he was 12.
Yeah, that's
when
true.
he started doing this.
Yeah, he looked like the guy from 2.5 Men.
Wait.
The little kid.
Yeah, I've got some like my very first mugshot at the Star from the early '90s. No, nobody needs to see that.
Well, I had the mullet.
That was horrible. You had the mullet, but that was time appropriate.
well, the running joke was that we called John for the long, even to today, really, we called John my wife's son because he was such a child when he got here. So, poor John.
And the good news is he does not
gets on.
And because you guys are on, the good news is he does not going to fight you because his prediction is not going to be wrong.
Yeah. No fight,
right.
Anthony.
I mean, John and I were right.
The fight is off. No, you weren't.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll do it again in the spring.
We were, under 2 wins, we win.
Okay, so before John gets here, so what was when we all knew the decision was coming down, but now that it's had time to settle and other stuff has happened and stuff, what's your take on the Pac-12 and the Big Ten decision?
Well, I get it. Just kind of on a personal level, probably sadness. It's what we do in the fall, right? We watch football, we cover football, and that's all going away. I'm not going to be at the stadium, not going to be in the press box. But I do, and I know John, and John's written about this a lot, so I'll let him go off on it. But the Pac-12's done the reasonable, thoughtful thing throughout the process, I think. And they're the ones, unlike the Big 12, that actually showed its work.
Right.
They didn't turn to the back of the math book to find the answer. They actually showed they went through the calculus and came up to their conclusion. So that I appreciate. And as I mentioned before, they released the documents and the medical guidance that they base their decision on. And if somebody wants to look at that and disagree with it, that's up to them. But, the Big Ten just jumped to the end of the book and said, no, we're canceling it. We're not going to be very transparent about how we got there. And you see a lot more blowback right now in the Big Ten, either from some schools or some of their star players like Justin Fields at Ohio State, or some of the parents. where you don't really see that going on too much in the Pac-12.
There's been a little bit, yeah, but not all that much.
Not the same as it is
right.
in the Big Ten.
There was no way they were going to play. There's just no way.
Well, and Anthony, I mentioned a couple of times, since this happened, I was so trying to be very positive. I really wanted there to be football, but when the decision got made, and like you said, when the Pac-12 laid their cards on the table, and they did it all in their news conference was great, and nationally they've been really praised for how they handled it. That they had Larry Scott on there, they had the doctor, they had Ray Anderson was there, they had the Oregon president was there. And they answered all the questions. And I know they dodged some stuff to a degree, but for the most part, you left that news conference and you had a pretty good idea why they did what they did. And it all made sense to me. And it's like the way they laid it out, it was kind of like, okay, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
Well, now the thing is the Pac-12 in a position where they have to start, quote, rooting against these other conferences who want to play.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Do you think they are?
Well, they're going to look, I mean, if you're being selfish about it, yeah, because the Pac-12 will look silly if they decided in, middle of August or the first week or so of August to cancel their fall season and three other conferences play. 3 other major conferences play, then let's say they make it work. Well, okay, Pac-12, looks like you made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Even though it may have made sense on August 12th or whatever it was, we're in such a rapidly changing time, and I think that's part of what these other conferences are banking on is that, to use the football analogy, the Hail Mary pass, right?
Right.
You're gonna, if you've got time left on the clock, you got a chance to win. And right now, those other conferences are saying, yeah, we got time left on the clock. Not a lot.
Well, one of the things
we're gonna take advantage of it.
Well, one of the things I'm hearing, and I'm sure you guys are hearing too, I'll ask, is there time still on the table where the Pac-12 can say, oh, maybe we could change our mind?
I think that ship has sailed.
I totally agree with that. I
know John's written about that. Now, I wonder if the question is a little bit different if we're talking basketball.
In terms of playing before the January 1?
In terms of playing before, yeah.
Yeah.
Because basketball, and I think the NCAA basketball committee today said by mid-September they're going to have a plan, or they're going to have an idea of what they're going to do with the season, whether that's starting on time or a slight delay. Basketball's a little bit easier to manage. They have the benefit of a little more time. They have the benefit of learning from mistakes that may have been made previously. So I think college basketball's got a decent shot of going off. But again, if it's a case of some of these other conferences are playing in mid-November, or they're playing before Thanksgiving, or even in December, and the Pac-12's not, why not? Maybe the NCAA basketball committee comes back in mid-September with some good plans and guidelines, and things are improving. At that point, does the Pac-12 have time to revisit hoops? I don't know. Maybe John can answer that. But I think football is out.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing that unless, like I was listening to a podcast today. Unless something dramatic from a science standpoint, a testing standpoint, happens like right now. I don't see that there's any way that they can turn that decision around.
Well, you guys talked about being locally driven, and let's say 4 or 5 some places are okay, the other 5 won't be, or 7 won't be. What do? You can't go on.
Right, you
can't go on.
And again, at Arizona, as good a job as they've been doing with their athletes and stuff like that, the students still aren't on campus.
Right. Talk to me in 2-3 weeks.
They're still not. And we've already seen, Notre Dame is having problems with, the students being on campus and there's parties going on and yada, yada, yada. Like we were saying a second ago, North Carolina, where else is that going to go on? Lane Kiffin, did you see what Lane Kiffin said today?
I didn't see that.
Same thing, I'll try, keep going while I'll try and hook it up. But he basically said the same thing. He said, I'm sitting here in Mississippi where everybody loves football and nobody is wearing masks. Nobody in town, nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like,
who do you have to blame?
People.
Who do you have to blame but yourselves?
I mean, because everybody, whether it's in terms of sports people or business people, schools, they're making decisions based on the numbers of the community spread and hospitalizations and infections. And like I said, there's really only a few tools in our toolbox as citizens that we can use to help that, and especially to help that if you want to see sports, if you want to even think about getting in person to an event like early next year,
right?
Do your part a little bit.
Just do your part just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of when the Pac-12 announced this last week that they were canceling, and that was actually something I posted on our Pima County social media with a picture of empty McHale Center seats. It's like, okay, football's gone. No sports until January 1st at the earliest. If you want to see Arizona basketball and you want to be in these seats, see people in these seats, do your part now and do those things we're talking about. Because that's the best way to do it.
Right.
If you're not going to do it, then don't complain when you're sitting there on a Saturday afternoon with nothing to watch.
We know where to go.
Exactly.
That's
Jay.
the bad part. That's the nowhere to go is the bad part.
Oh, you have plenty of time to be Jay Gonzales in the fall.
Jay with nowhere to go.
God. I'm forcing myself to go golfing and got heat stroked on Saturday because of it. So.
Yeah, because on top of everything else, we have record heat.
Yeah,
But the apocalypse is coming. It's all right.
We haven't had enough bad stuff going on. So, anyways. But Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, also came out with a statement following up on Greg Burns' thing where he said, "I'm concerned about some of the images I saw over the weekend and whether that will allow us to play football." It's like, folks, if you guys just don't want to do this, just say so, and then we'll call it right now.
What's the over-under?
I always thought it was crazy when, maybe in June or July, some of the schools were talking about, we'll have 50% capacity at our games. I'm like, are you insane?
Right.
You can have 0% capacity at your games. Kind of for this very reason. I mean, there's people are not going to kind of do the things that we think they should be doing at this stage, especially when you get into a big group setting like a football game, and all that stuff kind of goes out the window. So I always thought that was way very, very aspirational of them to think they could get any people in the stand.
We're going to take a break real quick. Maybe John Wilner will show up here in the second half.
Still waiting on John. We're going to talk way bad about him if he doesn't come on.
I want to ask you guys, at what point in the next 2 or 3 days will we hear or see some video that there's been shenanigans going on in town? So we'll get back here on the other side.
CBS News at the top and bottom of every hour. 1030 The Voice, Tucson's trusted local news and talk.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Technology shares led the way as stocks closed mostly higher. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 86, the S&P added 9, the Nasdaq jumped 110 to an all-time high. Low mortgage rates and limited inventories of existing homes have home builders practically giddy. The National Association of Home Builders says its sentiment index rose more than expected this month to its best level in over 30 years. Epic Games is taking its battle with Apple to court. The maker of Fortnite wants to stop Apple from removing the game from its App Store after it defied a requirement that it offer in-app purchases only via Apple and pay a 30% commission. Rackspace gained over 10%. Sources say Amazon is in talks to take a minority stake in the Texas-based cloud computing company. Amazon Web Services is the leader in cloud computing. Rackspace is both a partner and a rival to Amazon. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
CBS News Special Report, happening now virtually.
We the people call the 48th Quadrennial Democratic National Convention to order.
The Democratic National Convention is officially underway. It was set to be held in Milwaukee, but the coronavirus changed those plans to an online event. CBS's Ed O'Keefe on some of those who are speaking tonight.
Tonight, at least, they'll be relying on the former First Lady and Bernie Sanders to bear witness to Joe Biden's character. The former First Lady expected to talk about what she saw over his 8 years as vice president to her husband, and Sanders is expected to talk about Biden's open-mindedness and willingness to embrace more progressive ideas.
Meantime, President Trump held campaign rallies today in both Minnesota and Wisconsin.
This is the most important election we ever had. We've got to stop these radical left maniacs. We've got to win this election.
CBS News Special Report. I'm Matt Piper.
Time to update those old kitchen cabinets? Call the Window Depot today. The Window Depot is not only the #1 warehouse for windows and doors, we now have a great selection of kitchen and bath cabinets at Tucson's best prices. The Window Depot is Tucson's top spot for granite and quartz countertops to finish the new kitchen or the replacement of that old worn-out Formica. So call us today at 290-8545 or 622-6430. The Window Depot, windows, doors, granite, and new kitchens.
Go local. Make the switch. At Hughes Federal Credit Union, we offer customized solutions and get you what you need faster. Like our quick and easy credit cards and auto loans. All done online from start to finish. Save time using mobile banking, bill pay, mobile deposit, and mobile pay with just a few clicks. Live large, accessing 30,000 plus surcharge-free ATMs and free debit card choices. Make the switch to Hughes today. Visit hughesfcu.org/switch. Certain restrictions apply, insured by NCUA.
Tucson's Hispanic Voices, bringing diversity into the conversation. We'll talk local politics while fostering a culture of respect and understanding. Plus, we'll share stories of music, food, art, and culture. Tune in Saturday mornings from 10 to 11 on KVOI 1030 The Voice. Tucson's Hispanic Voices, sponsored by MPG Automotive, HT Metals, the Law Office of Natalie H. Haywood, and music by Gabriel F. Romo.
This is The Voice, 1030, Tucson's trusted news and talk.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside co-host Jay Gonzales. And on the phone we have Anthony Gimino and John Wilner of the San Jose Mercury News. John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
How's your life today?
Busy. Every day is busy these days. There's no games, and it's still very busy.
Are you having a hard time? I'm sure you're not having a hard time finding story ideas because it seems like all the stories run together. But how is it kind of making things different yet knowing the same things are going on?
You know, a lot of the stuff that is people are interested in right now is why is the Pac-12 canceled and 3 conferences are still moving on. So like today I wrote something about the testing issues that the Pac-12 is having and why this big saliva test that Yale and the NBA have come up with, which sounds great, but it actually doesn't solve the Pac-12's primary problem with testing, which is the turnaround time. So, I mean, there's just a ton going on.
So now that this decision has had a week or so, almost a week or so to settle, and we asked Anthony this already, so he's already told us. But, you know, where's your head on the decision that was made, why, the way the Pac-12's handled it, and all that stuff?
Well, I think they made the right decision given kind of the framing that they created. I guess if I was going to take issue with something they did, I still don't understand why any of these conferences really thought they were going to be able to play the second half of September. And if the Pac-12 had just said, you know what, we're not going to try to get 10 games in. We're going to try to get 8 in, and we're going to not play until the middle of October, so that we don't have to start training camp until the middle of September, they wouldn't have been put in the position to even have to make a decision last week. They could have let things play out for many, many weeks before they had to decide and before they had to get the advice from their medical board. To me, that was the big thing.
John, because you're so close to it, do you think that was an option, or just they didn't even think of it?
I mean, I think it was an option, but they were kind of aggressive. I mean, everybody kind of was, right? I mean, hell, the Big Ten originally was going to try to play on Labor Day, and that's crazy, right? The ACC was going to September 12th, I think, is that Saturday. The ACC had set. I think that's all too aggressive when you consider that, and you have to assume, like we're seeing, that there's going to be outbreaks on campus because when the students return. So you've got to kind of factor that into your timeline. And I don't know why any of these conferences even bothered scheduling a game in September.
So John, you don't see games going off on September 12th because there's games scheduled for September 12th.
It's crazy. I know. I mean, I guess maybe they will. I don't see any kind of season starting on September 12th and not being disrupted. And the other interesting thing about that is that's the ACC, and that the ACC is going to do exactly what the SEC does. So, who knows if they'll get those. The SEC folds up, then the ACC is going to, that's a deck of cards collapsing right there.
Yeah, do you think if any of the big three remaining conferences, if one of them goes, the other two goes with them? I can't see the Big 12 being a port in the storm here.
If for sure, if the SEC goes, it's all falling apart, right? But I think that they feel like they have to have three, and I think ESPN has told them if for playoff purposes you got to have three. So the SEC kind of had the ACC in tow all along, and part of that's because of so many in-state rivalries there. There's some political overlap, and they were both leaning hard on the Big 12 to keep going because if the Big 12 had folded up, I think that would have been it. I think ESPN does not want to have just two. I think they feel like they got to have three for some legitimacy.
I totally agree with that. And look, everybody, if the SEC blows it up, blows the whole thing up, that's it. The ACC and the Big 12 can't make a college football season. Nobody's even going to want to watch that.
Well, I mean, they'll watch it.
That in a second. Come on now.
I don't know. I mean, it just seems like it'll the whole thing just be so empty. It's like we're going to have 8 games on a weekend.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, the SEC, they're carrying everybody, but they also are in a position of need. They need those other two to keep moving, and it was tenuous there with the Big 12 last weekend, right? And they were closer to folding up than either the ACC or the SEC have been thus far.
John, deep down, and we've talked to you about this before, do you actually think that there's going to be a season?
No.
Not in the fall?
Not in the fall.
What about the spring?
I thought it was below 50-50 all along in the fall. I think part of the spring equation depends on what happens in the fall. If the SEC does not play in the fall, I think that there's a much better chance that there'll be football in the spring. If these three conferences somehow make it through some kind of a season, I am skeptical that the Pac-12 and the Big Ten would have spring seasons just by themselves.
Interesting.
So it's got to be all five. I think it's got to be all five for momentum. For the NCAA is going to have to make a whole bunch of exemptions on eligibility and that kind of thing, and it's just a lot easier to get all that stuff done if you've got all five putting pressure on.
So, John, if the teams do play, what's the biggest concern? Playing 2 seasons in the calendar year, or the pandemic, or the disease?
Well, the pandemic is number one. They won't play if things are the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. They're not going to play unless things are better. But they all believe that it's going to be better. A lot of that has to do with the testing, improvements in testing, so that they can get results back in 24 hours. So a spring season certainly depends on the pandemic being under better control and testing. but they are going to have to figure out a way to not ask these guys to play 22, 24 games in one calendar year. I mean, the spring season could be shorter, probably would be shorter, but you got to deal with eligibility issues because, right, nobody who's going to, if the NFL draft stays in April, none of the top players are gonna play in the spring season. So you gotta be able to fill your roster up.
So let me ask you guys this: what's worse? I shouldn't even phrase it that way. If, let's say, the three conferences, they get their season started, they play, let's say, 3 games, and then they have to end it. Is that it? Would they then maybe move the rest of it to the spring? I mean, or it seems to me like if it gets going, they're going to have to push through, and because if they don't, how do you recover from that?
Yeah,
Tony,
that's your answer.
If you get going and then have to stop, how do you get going again in the spring? Especially with when your roster may look entirely different.
And the Pac-10 looks better.
And then with the possibility of that affecting the 2021 season.
Right. Because now you're going to have to...
Which would really affect, how we produce preseason college football magazines, and that would be a real bear.
So let me ask you...
I don't want to change schedule.
So let me ask you, would they call the season if they don't know for sure that they can finish the season? Will they end it before it starts if they don't know for sure that they can finish it, or are they just going to give it a try?
How would they know, though?
I don't know.
John?
Nobody knows anything.
John, you're the doctor.
I think if they start it, then they'll feel like they've got a good chance to finish it, because the biggest issue, I think they believe the biggest issue is what happens when all the students get back on campus. I mean, we saw North Carolina, right? They lasted 1 week before the school had to reverse and go to online or remote only, right? I mean, there was a picture from Tuscaloosa of tons of kids out on the streets, not wearing masks. I think they feel like if they can get to the point where they can start, they'll have cleared the biggest obstacle, which is the kids coming back.
The students on campus.
But that's the big question: is can they get it through this next, 3 or 4 weeks?
That's it. I was moving my daughter into an apartment over downtown today, and everybody was moving. Everybody had their masks on and stuff like that, but. The question is, do they have the endurance?
I was thinking, as you were moving her in, were you thinking, when's it going to happen? You're thinking, when's the party going to happen?
You're right. And we're, and look, there's going to be a bunch of students who are going to be responsible, and they're going to do what they need to do.
Right.
Although my daughter said she had a coupon for wings at Gentle Ben's, and I'm like, can you please not go there?
I'll buy them. I'll pay for it. I'll pay for the wings.
But... it's going to kind of like this is a marathon, and how long are the students on campus going to put up with the masks all the time and not going to parties and stuff? I just don't know how that can last, and then it's going to blow up. I mean, Notre Dame is having problems.
You know the answer to that, Jay. You already know the answer to that.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping the kids are smarter than I was, and I don't know. Are they?
Well, when's the over/under? Saturday, you will see pictures from parties in Tucson.
Yeah, because all the students are moving on. They're moving into the apartments and stuff like that, and everything this week.
Saturday is my over/under.
And school doesn't start till Monday.
Got to have a party on the weekend, or 2.
So I don't know. I guess the thing becomes, who's right, who's wrong. Talk about the stuff that's going on at Ohio, with the petition that got started by Justin Fields at Ohio State. Can that have? Oh, we got to hit a break.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on the other side.
Yeah, let's go to a break, and we'll come back to that after.
Trusted local news and talk. 1030, The Voice.
There's a place in our house
For 70 years, Benjamin Supply has been keeping Tucson flowing. Hygiene is our business. We help you achieve extreme clean. Minimize germ spreading with a hands-free sensor faucet. Forget the paper panic with a washlet seat. And speaking of waterworks, a big thanks to plumbers for their essential efforts during this health crisis. Shop our downtown showroom by appointment. Call us at 777-7000 or see all the products online at benjaminsupply.com.
Thanks to Benjamin Plumbing Supply.
This is Bill Buckmaster. Coming up Tuesday during the noon hour, Dr. Kelly Ward will join us. Dr. Ward is the Republican Party chair for Arizona. Also, the white dove of the desert, San Javier del Bac, is in desperate need of repairs on 1030. Tucson's voice for trusted news talk anywhere in the world, live listening 24/7, buckmastershow.com.
Tucson's source for trusted news and talk. 1030, The Voice.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside co-host Jay Gonzales. And on the phone we have Anthony Gimino and John Wilner of the San Jose Mercury News.
Yeah, so let's go to the stuff that's happened that, came out of a house. There's like 200,000 signatures on this petition. And here's the thing that got me about that. The We Are United movement and all that kind of stuff. And all of them were saying, we're not signing waivers or any of that. Make it safe for us to play. And now you got about 200,000 people who have signed petitions saying, we'll sign anything you ask us to sign in order to play. I mean, what your guys' take on all that?
Would that really hold up at the end of the day?
No, they can't. But, John, do you think is that going to have any impact on anything?
Well, the Big Ten's not going to reverse their decision, that's for sure. There's no way the presidents will go back. They would have to answer to their trustees and their politicians. There's no way they'll go back. The whole thing's bananas, right? It's hard to keep track of who's protesting what, petitions, waivers. It's like it's bananas. But it's kids, right? They're changing their minds. They're getting bad advice. They want to play. They're not sure. It's a bad environment. Justin Fields was, I believe, part of the Big Ten's We Are United. I'm not. I can't even remember which ones they are. But after the Pac-12 came out, the Big Ten had their deal that was focused on health and safety protocols. I think he was part of that, and now he's part of this. And I stopped paying attention to the specifics long ago because it's too hard, and they've undermined their own leverage.
Anthony, if you're Justin Fields, would you even think about playing this year?
If I was, probably not, but I'm not him. He's better than I was. And he's, we've seen probably, I don't know, at least, obviously there's dozens and dozens and dozens of guys who have opted out of the season already.
Right.
Probably 5 of those or so are kind of legit All-Americans,
But there's a lot of good players who have opted out.
Top half of the first round kind of guys and some bottom half of the first round kind of guys. And that's an issue where now some of the Big Ten, some of the Big Ten guys opted out for the conference cancel this fall season. Guys like Micah Parsons, the linebacker at Penn State, who's very well the best linebacker in the country. And he just, those guys are going to just go train and get ready for the draft and not worry about anything else. And this is the big issue you get with the spring season. Who in their right mind, who has any chance of being in the NFL, is going to play in the spring, risk injury while not preparing themselves for their best shot at combine, workout, NFL draft?
No, that's a good point. What kind of football will we see if spring does get played?
Well, it won't be the same. You have to ratchet down your expectations from the get-go. It won't be the same, but there's probably ways that they can account for players, opting out because of the draft purposes, right? They can let any mid-year enroll, freshmen who enroll in January. That's a hot thing these days. they can let those kids be eligible. They can adjust. The NCAA can adjust the eligibility rules to help teams basically have enough bodies to play, but that is going to they're going to need the football oversight committee, which basically runs the logistical aspect of major college football. They're going to have to start passing a whole bunch of exemptions to make the spring happen, and the NCAA, the Division I Council, which oversees everything, is going to have to sign off on it, which is why if you want to see football in the spring in the Pac-12, you don't want to see football in the fall from the SEC, because if the SEC and Big Ten are both guns blazing for spring football, there's a much better chance it'll happen.
So, John, say there's no season at all, no fall season, no spring season. Everybody's eligibility basically gets carried over. And maybe this is a numbers game that works itself out everywhere. But say you're not losing your typical amount of players, but you're trying to bring in. You've already got 20.
Yeah, you got 25 guys coming in, right?
You don't not necessarily. I mean, you could maybe play with that, but a lot of schools have tons of commitments early, 15, 20 plus commitments right now. What do you do in terms of the numbers game? Has there been any discussion about that at the NCAA level, conference level?
I don't think that there has been much, because they have. It's remarkable how little attention any of these 5 conferences have paid towards spring playing in the spring. It's like they never even considered it was a real possibility, right? I mean, Stephen J., I heard Dave Hickey, on your show. He said, spring? It's up on the table, or I don't.
He
know
said it was a
exactly
back of the napkin discussions.
Well, yeah, it shouldn't have been.
No, you're right.
All these conferences should have had at least. They're really good at forming committees and working groups, and they should have had a subcommittee from their football committee that's part of their working group that was sketching out some basics for the spring, because it's going to be a logistical, very difficult logistically, and they're just now all turning their attention to it. But certainly the eligibility thing is key, and the NCAA is a big part of that. But I think they could find a way to have large enough rosters for the coaches. I mean, my suggestion was you set a 9-game schedule for everybody, but no player can play in more than 7. And that way everybody's playing 7. That's like half of a real season. So they're not playing 2 seasons in one calendar year. They're playing 1.5. So everybody can play in a maximum of 7 out of 9. And then you let your freshmen who have enrolled early play in 4 or 5. And then you let all of your transfers be eligible immediately. And you can probably get yourself to a working, a roster that works for you. But it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of rule changes, and a lot of just willpower.
Can the NCAA move fast enough to do all of that?
I think they can if these guys don't have to report till, January. I mean, there's talk right now about having, moving spring practice to the fall. And so basically everybody would have spring practice in late November, and then you start up with a training camp sometime in early to mid-January.
It kind of makes sense. Makes sense, but you still have to worry about the pandemic, the issue.
So, John, give us some positive news as we near the end here. Tell us why the prospect of college basketball is a little more optimistic.
Do I have to?
I don't want to pull it out of you. I don't want to have to yank it out of you. I was hoping you'd be right on a response there so we could go out strong.
Well, I'll tell you, I was very, very skeptical, but I think that the Pac-12's got a pretty good plan with kind of using the travel partners as bubbles. But the basketball is the same. It's the same issue as football. They've got to have point-of-care testing. They got to be able to test these guys the night before a game or the morning of a game, whether it's football or basketball. They have to have that test result back in time so that they're not sending somebody out who's positive.
To infect the other team.
On point-of-care testing. And if point-of-care testing is at a level by November that will allow them to have test within 24 hours of competition and get the result back before, then I think they got a shot for basketball and for football.
Oh man. What
the thing is though that they thought, remember in May how everybody was super optimistic about college football? That's because all the commissioners and athletic directors thought that the testing was going to be much better now.
Right.
So now they're rolling the dice that it's going to be much better in November or December. We'll see.
Dave Hickey rolled out the idea that they might pushing basketball to January, they could still squeeze in some non-conference games. Is there a lot of discussion about moving March Madness back to give teams room to play more games?
I think that anything is on the table in the NCAA. The difference in basketball is, right, there's actually a commissioner, basically, right? Dan Gavitt runs men's basketball, and they, unlike anybody on the football side, so they've got a central decision-making authority, and I think they're willing to do anything. But I also think that they're hoping that they can, get started. I mean, the Pac-12s and the Ivy Leagues are the only ones that have canceled men's basketball through the end of the calendar year. There's a lot of places that think they're going to be able to play in December non-conference games.
Could you see the Pac-12 rolling back their decision on that?
No.
No, I mean,
no? Like a flat no?
No, if they roll back, then they might as well pack it in. They'll have lost all their moral authority.
Wow. No, let me tell you something, John, because that's the big talk that there's a chance of that happening. But you would know because you talk to people that, and I agree with John. I mean, you do lose your credibility.
If you're doing this, if you've come to this conclusion because you think it's the safest thing for the athletes, I mean, if there's a widely available vaccine that by the end of the year, maybe that would change things. But I mean, this is all predicated on there not being a vaccine till sometime next year, right?
What about an improvement in testing, though?
Well, okay, but the problem is that you got to get the guys They decided they have to have 6 weeks for we're talking about for basketball, right? They decided they have to have 6 weeks, 2 weeks of, call it what you want, strength and conditioning stuff, and then 4 weeks of practice. They had a basketball working group that spent 3 months on this, and they decided 6 weeks is needed for players to be on the court before the first game. So if they want to play in early January, then that means mid-November they got to have these guys on the court. So I think that's still pushing it to have point-of-care testing widely available, in time for them to be on the court in mid-November. That's pushing it. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Well, that was a great show. Thanks for joining us.
This has been fun. We appreciate you guys being here, and we want to do this on a regular basis. Maybe someday, we can throw a little something your way to do this. But for now, I will tell you, John, that I've got a text thread going here with some people that you know pretty well, and one of them, being my wife, says you should be the head of the NCAA. What do you think?
That's nice of your wife.
Well, you do.
I've always liked her.
She's always called you son too.
Yeah, I think the four of us can go do this, right?
Sure.
The interesting thing is there is a call for there to become a commissioner of college football. This has kind of exposed all the problems. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens.
All right.
Thanks,
guys. Thanks a whole bunch. We do appreciate this. This is fun. We'll have to do it again.
All right, guys. Buy me a Bob Burger next time I'm there.
You're on. You got it.
That's a good choice. That's an easy choice. Hey, thanks, guys. Hey, Jay, good show.
It was a good show. It was a lot of fun. And
tomorrow we have
Jason. Stuff. We got Jason Gardner tomorrow. Big pull by Steve.
Thanks, everybody. Talk tomorrow.
KVOI Cortero, AM 1030, the voice of Tucson. Trusted local news and talk. A Bustos media station.